Good day. My name is Lanlan Kuang Lanlan, basically. I am an associate professor in the philosophy department at UCF. Since this event is open to the UCF community and recorded for public viewing, my lecture today is designed for both general audience who might need a little bit more background information, and for students of Asian studies and global studies who might be looking for detailed contents. So I would like to start by thanking the Euro-Asia Foundation from Asia for their generous sponsorship of this special lecture series, Reaching for the Stars as Global Citizen. It is my great honor and pleasure to present as a speaker today, but also as the PI and host of this project, this event, representing our home institute, the University of Central Florida. This lecture series is inspired by our home institute, UCF's goal to be a world-class, comprehensive, metropolitan research university with internationally recognized academic programs, and I quote from UCF's 2022 to 2027 strategic plan to enhance national and international exposure, which is one of our 2027 priority initiatives. As our university aspires to becoming one of the nation's and the world's leading public metropolitan research university, UCF has been doing an outstanding job supporting the creation of programs and courses, like my own, in its various colleges to help students become global citizens. This lecture series aims to guide audience to examining critically the changing representations of Asian cultures and humanities in different historical and socio-economical contexts in a world increasingly more interdependent and globalized. To go global, one must go local. Globalization theory could, at times, encourage the equation of an abstract concept of global with capital and change versus a concrete local or regional or national with labor and tradition. It is therefore arguably more effective to employ a relational understanding to globalization through fieldwork and ethnography. Globalization always takes place in some locality, while local is reproduced in the global circulation of products, discourses, and imaginaries. The local does not oppose, but with highlight contextual elements, constitute the global and vice versa. In this light, the qualitative and interpretive approach provide opportunities for investigating the processes of globalization and localization, assume many forms connected by highly complex power relations. Fieldwork traditionally involves participant observation and methods such as interviews, surveys, and questionnaires with interpretive approach for producing ethnography. Ethnography is, very broadly speaking, used to describe a kind of research methodology whose characteristics include, say, sharing the lives of those under study, gaining an emic understanding of things with a holistic approach and observation of the local everyday life. Ethnographic documentary films as a basic research tool for recording information has a long history. It evolved to be a controversial but highly effective ethnographic research method for reflexive and feedback interview among trained ethnographers. Eventually, it developed into a mature scholarly field of its own, which is becoming even more popular today with the push for digital humanity. We will watch a few clips together during the course of this presentation. Today's talk starts with a brief introduction for a few key ideas, as I did, and research methodologies. Then move into introducing a few samples from my ongoing, preliminary, and also COVID-interrupted research on local heritage and sustainable development in China. Against the backdrop of the country's rapid economic growth, sustainable consumption, and rising public awareness of heritage protection. Heritage, including both tangible and intangible cultural heritage, is, according to some scholars, essentially a cultural practice that involved in the construction and regulation of a range of values and understandings. In other words, just as tradition, some of you already read for my courses, just as tradition is constantly in the making, connecting the past with the present for a possible future, heritage is not regarded automatically as heritage without preconceptualization. Instead, it is approached by some scholars as a discourse. The making of heritage discourse is situated in the interrelation of political, cultural, historical ideas, values, and ideologies, and almost always contested. For those reasons, a multitude of theories and methods are being introduced to today's heritage study. For instance, archived research, the analysis of public discourse in media or in reality, interviewing, journalism, interpretive representation of collectives and some individual for some cases. At the center of today's presentation, the country China, as we know today, is considered by some scholars as a relatively newcomer to the idea of intangible cultural heritage preservation, as the country only began to embrace the emerging recognition of intangible cultural heritage per se after signing the World Heritage Convention in 1985. In fact, the country's administrations of aspects of what we now term as intangible cultural heritage could be traced back to early environmental philosophy in Taoism teachings, and to early dynastic times when laws and rules were put into place to manage the knowledge and practice of imperial craft production. It is true, however, that after the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, state legislation focused primarily on the protection of tangible culture relics throughout the early 20th century for many different reasons. Those of you who are familiar with modern Chinese history will understand there would be a break in continue preserving traditional cultures. However, a systematic revival of traditional artistic, ritual, and festival activities through state policies began since the so-called Reform and Open era under Deng Xiaoping's leadership in the late 1980s and early 1990s. In 1997, the Regulation on the Protection of Traditional Arts and Craft, 传统工艺美术保护条例, were implemented. It created an overall preservation framework for both intangible and tangible cultural heritage in China, and clarifying the division of duty between the central and local government in the protection of traditional arts and crafts, encouraging, and I quote, encouraging rather than demanding or requiring, right, local governments to cultivate local inheritors, the so-called intangible cultural heritage masters, 传承人, support scientific research on traditional arts and crafts, and rescue endangered craftsmanship. This regulation was significant since a key feature of the intangible cultural heritage protection system that we found in Japan and South Korea is the official designation of important tradition barriers as the living national treasures, 无形文化财. In 2004, China joined the UNESCO Convention for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage. Chinese government has since officially endorsed the notion of safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in its legislation and policies, both at national, provincial, and local levels. In 2005, for instance, the State Council issued 2 documents, the Opinions on Strengthening the Protection of China's Intangible Cultural Heritage, and the Interim Procedures for the Declaration and Assessments of Representative Items of National Intangible Cultural Heritage. So these 2 documents mark the first appearance of ICH language, Intangible Cultural Heritage, ICH language, in China's official rhetoric. In these documents, China's state government defined ICH closely following the UNESCO's 2003 convention. These documents also mark the beginning of the country's advocate for greater public awareness of safeguarding ICH and encouraging broader social participations in ICH protection throughout the country. So unsurprisingly, in the recent years, we observe a major revival throughout the country with related policies and initiatives enacted at national, provincial, and local level. By 2020, China has emerged as a leading financial contributor to UNESCO's work on intangible cultural heritage, according to research data, of course. I would like to share with you a very short and very roughly edited clip of the working materials I collect during my most recent fieldwork on sustainable heritage development in China. But before that, I will give you a little background and sort of disclaimer about this video. First of all, this is a very roughly edited clip, okay, 3 minutes clip, created for the sole purpose of today's presentation. But it will allow me to present to you a few ideas that are key to my research on sustainable development. And I have been extremely fortunate to have many friends and colleagues who generously grant me the permission to collaborate with them in the field on different projects and use their copyright materials for editorial purposes and presentation purposes. The cultural heritage you will see in the clip that follows are from Hunan province. So a little background. Hunan province is located in south-central China in the middle reach of the Yangtze River. The province has an acre of 210,000 square kilometer, with 136 counties and 13 cities, so it's quite big. The provincial capital is Changsha, where I did my most recent fieldwork, a city recognized in Chinese history for more than 3,000 years. And today, Changsha is a major river port on the Xiang River and is a commercial center. It's important to know that more than 50 ethnic groups, including Miao, Tujia, Yao, Hui, living in Hunan province, but the majority of the population is Han Chinese. The name Hunan came from the fact that most of the province is located south of the Dongting Lake. You see a lot of water. So Hunan is actually very representative of the southern geographic characteristics in China. The longest river within Hunan province is the Xiang River, and because this Xiang is often used as abbreviation for Hunan. So when we talk about the Hunan food or Hunan cuisine, Chinese people would refer to as the Xiang cuisine. With Dongting Lake to the north, the remainder of the province is surrounded by mountains, as you can see. This is the so-called Phoenix, city of Phoenix. It's a beautiful city that still looks like this today. And the economic of Hunan is primarily agriculture. It is sometimes called a land of fish and rice because many of its products, such as rice, tea, corn, potato, fruits, and tobacco leaf, are considered the best in the country. Hunan is the largest producer in China of rice, the second largest producer of tea, and the third largest producer of oranges. The Dongting Lake has been important for its supply of freshwater fish. So Hunan province, as you can see, with its very attractive landscape, become a popular tourist destination. In 1988, the Chinese government established its first national forest in western Hunan, the so-called Zhangjiajie National Forest Park. And back to food. Like Sichuan cuisine, many of you have tried, from the neighboring Sichuan province. So Hunan is bordered with Sichuan, very close to it, to the west. Hunan cuisine is very spicy, making considerable use of chili peppers. Because Hunan is quite distant from the sea, with access only to freshwater fish, but not much seafood, Hunan cooks tend to use a lot of rice, meat, bean curd, mushroom, bamboo shoots. We'll see that in the video. Elaborate preparation is also a hallmark of Hunan cookery. Interestingly, Hunan cuisine also has a political cultural connotation for the locals as well as Chinese in general. The leader of the Chinese Communist Party, including Mao Zedong, Liu Shaoqi, Peng Dehuai, and Zhu Rongji, most recently, were all from Hunan province. So in the clip that you will see, a calligraphy hanging scroll written by Mao's personal chef, Shi Yinxiang, citing none other but than the one of the famous quotes by Mao, which is associated with food. The backstory goes when Mao's personal chef, Shi, found a small insect in the wild mushroom dish served to the chairman, Mao comforted him and said, wild mushroom with small insects indicate freshness and that the mushroom are harmless. It's not poisonous. And the best I can translate the exact word is, you will eat a peck of dirt before you die. So there's no big deal. It's very difficult to translate the way he expressed, but yeah. So I was not in Changsha for wild mushroom dish. Unfortunately, I should have tried. But the original purpose for my visit to Changsha, this is a phoenix. This is actually the capital, Changsha, with, you can probably see there's a head, sculpture of a head. That's Mao. Mao Zedong's, yes. Basically, in the middle of the island that is inside Changsha city. So the original purpose for my visit to Changsha, the capital city, was to interview director Yang Qian for my forthcoming new book on Silk Road and Dunhuang expressive art with Indiana University Press. Director Yang and I met on my fieldwork site, which was also his production shooting site during my 2019 research trip in Northwest China. And he specialized in documentary production and worked with famous Chinese documentary producers like Zhou Bing, who did a bunch of Silk Road-related projects, and Chen Xiaoqing on food-related projects. We will see actually a clip from his work later on. So long story short, I end up doing fieldwork on Hunan cuisine and local heritage in Changsha while director Yang conduct research for producing season 3 of the first documentary on Hunan cuisine called The Proud Hunan Cuisine. 傲娇的香菜. It's, once again, 傲娇 is a term from actually Japanese animation describing a certain type of character. But we're not going there. Sorry. And for Hunan Satellite Television Station, also known as the Mango TV, those of you who follow C-drama would know, which is a state-owned provincial satellite TV station launched in 1970 and is currently China's second most watched channel. So you will also see in the clip the two of us doing research at the restaurant called 12 Flavors, Changsha Banquet, and high-end restaurant specialized in Hunan's Zu'an cuisine, which is a local cuisine, but was highly popular from the late Qing dynasty to Republic of China era. Consider the source of high-end Hunan cuisine. Zu'an Hunan cuisine is based on the concept of excellent selection of raw material, fine knife processing, exquisite cooking skill, and precise tasting blending. And while the director's research served mostly to be the basis for his production of the season 3 of the food documentary series, our interests collide on representing the Hunan cuisine as a local culinary heritage. But our focus are still very different. And I will continue after I show you the clip. It's very roughly at it, so bear with me, especially film majors. Sorry. Can you see? Like I said, it's very roughly edited with whatever that is available at the time that I do this video. Where was I? I think we're back to here. Right. So without any, I didn't provide any translation or textual information in the clip. Obviously, but can you somehow understand what's going on in the song, particularly in the background, is actually a background music that they play at the location of the field site. It's a local folk song. It's a love song between a female and a male, obviously. During the season when they harvest the leaves for producing silk. So Hunan province is also famous for that. So, but also that's a famous style of folk song from Hunan. And you probably remember seeing the calligraphy that was briefly presented. That was the one that I was talking about that is actually written by the personal chef of Mao, who consult the owner and founder. As you see on top, Liu Jinwu, Chef Liu Jinwu, who is a judge for China's state-level culinary competition, and he's one of the winner of the 30 years Outstanding Figure Award for Chinese cuisine. So Liu named his restaurant, it's actually a train. This is one of the newer restaurant, but he named his restaurant chain Research Institute of Xiang Cuisine, and aimed to revive Hunan cuisine tradition while elevating some of the dishes without losing their authenticity. Most importantly, and this is what differentiates my research in the field than Director Young's, because he's there to basically do research in order to produce a documentary focusing on the Hunan cuisine. But what I pick up during the fieldwork is how Liu was able to create a network of support for intangible heritage cultures in Hunan province through his restaurant chain. Each year, Liu Jinwu would lead his team to visit the intangible heritage masters, or the so-called inheritors, in Hunan province. By incorporating each of their artistic creation in his restaurant chain, using them as themes, he effectively created a new source of income and also exhibition platform for supporting these intangible heritage masters, who are not to be away from the region they represent. So technically speaking, if you represent a certain type of intangible culture in this region, you and your disciples are not supposed to leave the region as long as you wish to continue holding the title of the master, which is kind of yes and no. There's a pros and cons. Obviously, we want to keep the tradition sort of authentic within its own cultural context, obviously, right? But that also pose very strict limitation on how the inheritors will be able to carry out their teachings and make a living, and etc. So one should know that many valuable or intangible or endangered intangible cultural heritage are located in remote villages without decent infrastructure such as roads and the internet. So without funds to provide physical or virtual access to these villages, the policy initiatives from China's state government for preserving the intangible cultural heritage become more or less less meaningful, because it doesn't really directly apply or help them. So in this particular case, what we see is Liu Jinwu, the founder of the restaurant chain 12 Flavor, and an individual, a private entrepreneur, representing a local private entity, could at times fill in the administrative gap due to policy implementation and difficulties. So I could easily provide a local example from Florida, being the chair of the Florida Folklife Council. Their 7-member council work closely with the state folklorists, currently being held by Dr. Dom Tartaglian, for promoting and safeguarding Florida cultural heritage throughout the state. but this is not the place to do so. I just want to let you know that we also have very similar councils and cultural heritage protection teams working with the state government locally here in Florida. Now back to the 12 flavor. Changsha banquet highlights the number 12 in Chinese classic and traditional culture, along with the 10 heavenly stem, Tian Gan, the 12 earthly branch, Di Zhi, were used to keep track of time. This was a system of counting that involved the combination of two series of signs, which yield a total of 60 possible combinations. In traditional Chinese solar-lunar calendars, every year, month, and day was assigned basically a heavenly as well as earthly system in order to provide accurate counting. So fresh, in-season ingredients and cooking concepts are employed and delivered accordingly at the 12 flavor Changsha banquet, because he used the number to indicate the following of the seasonal cuisines from locally sourcing from Hunan. And this is some of the fieldwork photos actually taken by Liu Jinwu and his team. This is at the restaurant where they display some of the local heritage from Hunan province. This is the most recent list of Hunan intangible heritage culture visited by Liu and his team in order to incorporate new ideas and new elements and also continue to support the masters locally by the 12 Flavors Changsha Banquet restaurant chain. Yeah, I didn't get to translate them due to a shortage of time where I just got the material from them. They actually just returned from the trip, the team of working artistic directors. And you might be wondering why you're staring at an empty plate. I create this background with the painting of Qi Baishi, a famous Chinese artist known for his painting of shrimps and crabs. Yes, I know. This is the actual painting, and you can see I use it as to sort of make the background. And last week on Friday, those of you who are in this class, and also my other class, on September 29th of this year, would know that many Asian countries would celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival, also known as the Moon Festival or Lantern Festival. It welcomes the autumn harvest and full moon. According to the lunar calendar, the moon is the brightest on the 15th night of autumn month. Now, in addition to appreciating the full moon, many of you probably would know, or sharing mooncake that you know with family and friends. The Chinese also celebrate by enjoying crabs. When crabs are in season in the autumn, they become juicy and fat, obviously, and therefore more prized by restaurants and families that appreciate gourmets. So ancient China actually have a whole set of tools just for eating crabs. Yes, yeah, you have a question.
What type of crab is
it? River crab, freshwater crab. Good question, yes. So, yeah, unfortunately it's not the blue crab, right? We have blue crab in the US. Those are like saltwater crabs, right? Or yeah, king crabs from Japan, that's associated with Japan. But you can see that each one of them has its own little function in the set. They explain the two for how to use them exactly. And the reason I show this is a sentence saying that reading The Dream of the Red Chamber, which is often considered the crowning achievement, literary achievement of Chinese narrative tradition, and has been compared to Don Quixote by Professor Thomas Randall, scholar of medieval and English and European literature. So this sentence in particular said, to read this is comparable to eating juicy crabs. It's a food metaphor, basically. It's like, it's so delicious. It's such a delicious novel. So this is a sentence in chapter 54, commentary for the Dream of Red Chamber. We will talk about that in my Asian Humanities class, but not here. Chrysanthemum viewing and crab banqueting in autumn is a note event described in the novel. Such culinary traditions are so important that it became a literary metaphor in Chinese classical culture. The sentence not only described the delicate taste of the freshly caught crab from China's Yangtze River when it is in season, while the rest of the narrative about the garden reminds the writer the rich flavor of the crab. I know, I apologize for giving a lecture on food around lunchtime. Many of you are probably suffering now. Anyways, so this is why exactly I have to read from a script. Otherwise, I'll just go on and on. Chinese culinary heritage has a long history with diverse regional characteristics. The cuisine culture is influenced by the climate and geographic condition of different regions, showing great diversity. Serving only in-season fresh ingredients from local source is a culinary philosophy shared by many Asian countries that follows the traditional solar-lunar calendars. We exist, metaphorically speaking, in a conceptual time-space between right now, the first and second solar term of the year 2023, according to the traditional Chinese lunar calendar, which divided the year into 24 solar terms. Those of you in Asian Humanities should have read the assigned reading about the 24 solar terms. So it's developed by farmers in ancient China through observation of the sun's annual motion. The 24 solar terms are used to mark change in season, weather, and nature by dividing a year into 24 equal periods, thereby providing a time frame for farmers to plan crop production and farming cultivation, as well as day-to-day life and festivals. And one of the most significant indicators of the 24 solar term would be the arrival of spring. Oh, here are some posters created by Chinese artists. Each year they keep coming out with new posters, right? So for each season, you're supposed to be eating certain type of food. You're probably more familiar with this concept associating with Korean and Japanese cuisine, but actually in Asia, in Asian culture, it's a shared sort of food philosophy that can be traced based on this calendar, the idea of the solar terms, and etc. Japan also have follow the usage of the solar term calendar now. The arrival of spring, the start of spring, the first solar term of the year marks the beginning of spring. People from the south of China traditionally welcome spring by setting off firecrackers and eating spring rolls. That's why spring rolls, okay? Crispy fried pastry dough filled with shredded pork, mushroom, depending either if they are vegetarian or not, right? This is a custom, a tradition known as biting the spring, 咬春. Spring rolls. I don't have any to share, sorry. But by the time of rainwater, the second solar term of the year, by this time, my social media account will be bombarded with images of spring bamboo shoots, like this one. Yeah, it says, let's have braised bamboo shoots. It's spring. And this, seriously, I mean, they just torture me with photos of fresh bamboos that I cannot obtain easily here. The Chinese National Geographic, oh, it was the last slide. but National Geographic magazine will start to posting bamboo-themed articles on its official social media account, joining my friends to remind me of my annual duty of craving the fresh, delicious spring bamboo shoots. There is no one to blame, really, when the craving for fresh, delicious spring bamboo shoot or the longing for fresh seasonal delicacies offered by nature, with a capital N, in general has been a known social cultural marvel among Chinese scholars and a popular theme found in different types of media since thousands of years ago. In this beautiful calligraphy work, known as the Post of Bitter Bamboo Shoots, for instance, the Tang Dynasty monk Huai Su wrote on silk with 14 characters, 苦笋即名异常家 乃可进来槐树上 basically translating to bitter bamboo shoots and teas are so good. You can bring it to me, please. That's kind of shameless, like just bring me gifts. This is what I want, right? So, but it's a calligraphy piece, right? So bitter bamboo shoot is a short note for Huai Su to a friend. A fun fact that Huai Su, he is paired with Zhang Xu and two other as the two great cursive script calligraphers of the Tang Dynasty. The duo is affectionately referred to as the Crazy Zhang and the Drunk Su. Okay, Crazy Zhang and Drunk Su calligraphies. Meaning why Huai Su's wild cursive style has earned him the status one of the two most celebrated Tang calligraphers. He also drank a great deal and also known as the drunken monk. Yes. This is actually the appreciation for bitter bamboo in spring through calligraphy work could also be found in Northern Song Dynasty. One of the four masters of calligraphy was a famous poet, and in his Ode to Bitter Bamboo Shoots, he wrote, I love eating bitter bamboo shoots, which are sweet and crunchy, enhanced by the slight bitterness. The texture is pleasantly fibrous, yet delicious. It won't hurt to eat a lot. Yes, it's kind of interesting to see. Food is one of the most important heritage in Chinese society. In ancient Chinese texts, She and Ji, god of the land and god of the grain, respectively, were used together as a term for the state. She Ji. So when the Chinese say Jiangshan She Ji, it actually means the state. The saying, to the imperial ruler, a country's foundation is the people, to the people, the foundation is food, was recorded in Bangu's The History of the Former Han as a social political commentary intended to advise administrators on how to rule. And as you've seen from the previous slide, the book of Zhou, a 50-chapter official history of China's Xianbei and Northern Zhou dynasty, compiled by the Tang Dynasty historian in 636 CE, consider food to be the first of the 8 most important state affairs that needs to be governed with the greatest care. In the last few slides, I have shown 2 celebrated poets, intellectuals from Tang and Song dynasty, who used calligraphy as medium for expressing their love for the seasonal vegetable, bitter bamboo shoots. Huang Jingtian's order on bamboo shoots is believed to be produced after he was demoted in 1095, having been accused of inaccurately and clumsily in the compilation. Huang subsequently lived in exile for some 20 years, during which time he also believed to have produced the calligraphy I show you. The scroll I show you is only partial to what he wrote. The complete script actually reads, bitter bamboo shoots are intense, slightly bitter in taste, but full of deliciousness. The bitterness is good for health and fitness, just like honest criticism are hard to the listener, in this case, the ruler, but they are good for the vitality of the country. For this reason, eating more will not bring harm, just as having more respect and honest officials will only bring more virtues. The Sichuanese said the bitter bamboo shoots cannot be eaten, for they will make people ill and die. I don't want to argue with them, because the first-class scholar officials know things well. It goes without saying. Although the second-class scholar officials may be convinced, but they can be confused. The lower-class scholar officials listen only to rumors. They are too stubborn to even believe what they see. And he concludes the scripture, which is not shown here, but I'm translating for you. If you know the amusement of being drunk or tipsy, it is unnecessary to share with those who are sober. So yes, using a lot of food and drink metaphors, ancient Chinese scholar officials provide advice or express their political ideologies through calligraphy or painting or through their love for food. According to Lao Tzu in chapter 60 of the Taoist canon, Dao De Jing, governing a large country is like cooking a small fish. In other words, just as too much stirring will cause a delicate fish to fall apart when you cook them. How many people cook here? None? Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So if you cook fish, you would know if you constantly flip the fish, it easily breaks, right? So in other words, just as too much stirring will cause a delicate fish to fall apart, a leader should follow the appropriate method of cooking a small fish and avoid overly interfering in the life of the people. The phrase is so popular that it's adopted as a subtitle in the smaller font in the opening frame of A Bite of China, setting the tone for the entire documentary series on Chinese food. In June 2012, the Wall Street Journal introduced the international reader the first season of A Bite of China, a Chinese food documentary series that began air in May 2012 on the state-run CCTV, China Central Television channel. The documentary typically drew about 20 million viewers, but more than 100 million people watch each of the 7 episodes of this food documentary in China. For the first time, a documentary proved more popular than drama series that normally topped the Chinese rating. And the second season of The Bite of China, which cost about 10 million yuan to produce and was aired in 2014, generated revenue of more than 300 million yuan, which is approximately 50 million USD. Since China began marketing the series at international venues. So the landscape of food, as you can see, has transformed dramatically since ancient time. Scholars have presented extensive research on such transformations in China's culinary history, paying special attention to the resurrections of regional food and local food culture, for instance, in Shanghai, and on diversity and foreign fairs in China's gastrometric writings during Deng Xiaoping's open and reform period. Growing local awareness and global recognition of traditional food as an intangible heritage accelerate this transformation. In 2010, for instance, the city of Chengdu in southwest China's Sichuan province, known for its great variety of flavor, became the first UNESCO city of gastronomy in Asia, making China an official member country of the Creative City Network. As China's first UNESCO city of gastronomy, Chengdu and basically Chongqing cuisine and its people have been highlighted several times in the Bite of China series. Such international recognition contribute to what I describe as a mediated discursive transformation of China's contemporary foodscape and culinary heritage in the globalizing era. As the mass media and other forms of mediated communications are increasingly significant in our daily lives, communication technology have become absolutely essential to the globalization process. We are short on time, so in the following few slides, I am going to show you short clips. However, it also allows you to see the different style produced food documentary produced by state administrating CCTV food documentary, as well as by private entities such as the 12 Flavor Changsha Banquet, and also by individuals. Some of you probably have seen nowadays bloggers are very influential influencers basically on the internet. Before I launch into, this is by one of the famous producers that work with director Yang, as I mentioned before. Bamboo shoots on the market. Bamboos in the, those are screenshots taken from The Bite of China, season 1. Very quickly show you.
On the menu of traditional Chinese cuisine, there is another dainty food growing in mountains. Cubes of fresh winter bamboo shoots. After being cooked in deep fat with various spices, will be a widely popular dish in Jiangsu and Zhejiang provinces. In China, many people rely on bamboo forests. They are also bamboo shoot experts. Now bamboo needs to be planted away from mulberries and pines, otherwise they won't grow well or produce bamboo shoots. Bao is a Zhejiang native. The biggest ever bamboo shoot in Suichang was harvested in his bamboo forest. The winter bamboo shoot hides in the earth and is hard to find on the surface. But Bao can easily locate the bamboo shoot by only observing the color of bamboo leaves. Under the lifeless earth, a bamboo shoot is silently growing. The winter bamboo shoot is seasonal and hard to preserve. After being peeled, it leaves little left to be cooked. Chinese chefs love it because it is single-grained. It's able to easily absorb the flavor of added garnishes. In particular, it can help attain a flavor balance when being cooked with greasy, fatty meat. Bao always looks for 4-year-old bamboo plants before locating bamboo shoots.
Okay, that's very quick. I'm going to move into introducing the. This is by Li Ziqi. Some of you might have heard of her. She was recognized when she is at the peak, China's second most influential video blogger. She has went into hibernation due to some lawsuit disputes. Was not her fault, but this is from before her blogging went into sort of suspension. But also, Okay, so you can still find her blog on YouTube nowadays, even though she's no longer renewing it. This is the proud Hunan cuisine produced by the Mango TV channel. Right, so that is the proud xiangcai or Hunan cuisine produced by the provincial television station versus the individually, independently produced blogger depicting the style of life that she lives. Now finally, before I move into the last case study, this is the sort of video produced by the 12 flavor Changsha banquet where I did the video for the first video. That's making paper. Shadow puppets. Okay, so that's short and sweet. Before we move into the last, the video seems to present you some of the very urban and the banquet Changsha obviously located at one of the most expensive location in the capital city of Changsha, of Hunan, which is in Changsha. But let's look at, I'm not sure which one, the last case study, which brings you to sort of the suburban, not so suburban, but the porcelain capital of China, which I did my previous, before the pandemic started, also preliminary fieldwork at the Dongjiao Center for Porcelain History and Cultural Exchange in Jingdezhen, China's porcelain capital. The center was found in 2015 by Huang Qinghua and Huang Wei archaeologists. They are trained archaeologists who discovered the ruins of Song Dynasty claims in the village, the Jinkeng village at Jingdezhen, and became a private nonprofit organization that promotes porcelain research and promotes objects found at the location, the dig. It hosts exhibitions, symposium, and community gathering. But most importantly, in addition to its function as a conventional cultural venue, it has a unique experimental approach for reviving the traditional way of porcelain production in Jinkeng village by educating local villagers about ecological and economical sustainability. So as you can see, this is the porcelain capital, Jingdezhen. China has been a long time the largest manufacturer and export of porcelain, where in the world. And with that, Jingdezhen would be the center of the porcelain making, and eventually has many so-called imperial and official claims that produce only the, porcelain wares that can only used by the emperor. So there's a long history which I will not go into, but this is an exterior entrance of the Dongjiao Center, and that's actually a museum established by my cousin in Jingdezhen, who is also a porcelain artist. So in Jingdezhen, you will find the mixture of the traditional as well as the very contemporary exhibition of traditional way of living. But the focus of my preliminary research before the pandemic was on the function of the Dongjiao Center as an educational and experimental approach for employing the founder, Huang Qinghua and Huang Wei's philosophy as a so-called, what we in the United States or in the West would say, public intellectuals, who felt the obligation of educating the public of their two philosophy. The first one would be the full-time farmer, part-time archaeologist. So they live there, and they have farmland. As you can see, this is Jinkeng, this is the center. That's a display inside the center that they live in. Full-time farmer, part-time archaeologist is the philosophy of the Dongjiao Center. As research, they are fully aware of the fact that the village porcelain making has not been the primary concern of the villagers for a long time. They're not there to make porcelain, they are there as farmers, but they still need to make a living and coexist with the factories and the making, the industries, the porcelain industries, etc. The villagers are more concerned with the daily economic of farming, mainly of growing vegetables basically providing. So since farming is a highly seasonal activity, it says, even when it's at the peak of the Five Dynasty, villagers work mainly in the field during the busy season. For the rest of the time, they would become workers that work in the porcelain factory industry, and etc. So we are really short on time, so I'm going to quickly show you the final video, which is a bit longer, but also show you the way that they're approaching sort of a co-ed, the porcelain farmer, eco-agricultural cooperative. That's what they describe the way that they incorporate it into the center for educational and farming purposes. Okay.
从小家里做年糕就是跟着爸爸学的嘛，爸爸做年糕，他已经年纪大的时候了。
要学这之前，最早是做什么？
最早是种石头，这个10几个人了嘛。
从口上进了大马路了，进去要立即要进去，因为18个这个水队。
这个地方就是进口现在保持状况非常好的一个古代水堆，然后呢，它的规模相当大，就要靠这些水堆进行那个精细的加工，进行非常好的一个筛选，才做出来非常好的品质的石石。没有好的品质的石石是做不出好的金白石的。
人工都见过，你知道这东西？
我爸爸以前是称弦的，我们这里的今天的弦可以到市里啊，走水路，用这个都是这个搞实验用的，稻草了，摇骰了。 干净以后，要放在水里，要浸8个小时。它不发胀呢，这个米呢，它就种不成水。
山上嘛，满地都是好多这个福建养的羊啊，那是农药也有啦，啊，原药也有啦，啊，那都好些都送南土各种下来的，它最好的羊。
这个是刚刚在这个水堆下面发现一个瓷片，这个是清代乾隆后期的一个把宋代这个沈清佑的一个行走，说明在清代有封建的生活嘛。
查起来。也是老祖宗传下来的一个风俗习惯，哎，如果没有他这个东西哈，按照迷信来讲呢，会高举这个树啊，它就是你是那个黑鱼，它的怪子呢，它就会避邪的意思。
要抽我的针。
这个都是宋代。
啊，对，都是宋代清白的词。
我们这个正刊的名字呢，放着吧。
像一山花香，春风拂看花。若非去城头见，会想要看月相逢。我知红颜明香，明月路上人难长。借问后宫谁的思念？可怜飞燕满心窗。皆是春风无限黑，沉香听我玉兰歌。皆是春风无限黑，沉香听我玉兰歌。
Okay, and this sort of concludes my presentation of the day. I know that yawn was pretty loud. Oh, thank you. You guys should do this also for other speakers as well, you know? But anyway, so a little self-promotion. New books are coming out next year. But we don't have time for questions, and you guys can always ask me questions later. We can deal with it. Questions? Pretty clear? Okay, good. Thank you. I see you on Thursday.